Ladies and gents, how are you doing? All we've got today on the BBC, every story on the homepage is the same story over and over and over again. So we're going to have to talk about it, aren't we? Not least because I've heard a lot of chittering online by people who I would have assumed to be a lot more sensible than they actually are, whinging about the fact Trump's put in tariffs. And he said he's 100% committed to following through on them. So I'm going to have to explain this to you, Anna, in a much better way than the BBC's going to do, because they do nothing but lie. So what is the Golden Dome? Why does Trump want Greenland? It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. I can tell you this much. If President Biden or President Obama was trying to do the same thing, the European Union would be all for it. This whole thing, this psychodrama, is shameless politicking by the usual suspects who simply hate the idea because the Orange Oracle's proposing it. If you're impatient and you just want to turn off now, though, I'll simply say this. Who do you trust to have the United Kingdom's best interest at heart? The orange fella, whose mother was Scottish and is clearly an Anglophile, or Ursula von der Scheisseporn and the rest of the European Commission? Not that complicated, is it? Right, as you can see, the BBC homepage today is just crying about Trump. We've got the top stories are, how could Europe respond to Trump's Greenland tariffs? Live, Trump says he's going to 100% follow through on his threat to impose tariffs. And Europe is at a total loss. Russia gloats over Greenland tensions. Well, we'll work through all three clockwise, shall we? The BBC writes this long piece, desperately coming up with clutching at straws about Europe hitting back with tariffs. But let me break this down as simplistically as I can for you, right? The European Union is a wreck. It's an economic basket case because it's been ran by old school Euro-communists who have got the economic ability and understanding of Rachel Reeves's downy sister. Okay, so there's no way Europe can hit back with tariffs effectively. For the last 10 years, growth in Europe has been anemic. And growth in the United States has been excellent because the United States is a more right-wing country. And the United States still has the vestiges of a meritocracy. We still make people work. We don't just pay people like Mick Philpott to sit on the fat ass and have 14 children while you pay for them. So that's why the United States is winning and Europe's losing. And I'm sure this won't be news to anybody that watches this channel regularly, but the same was said by me 18 months ago when they were talking about Canada and Mexico crying about tariffs. It's not complicated. 85% of the stuff Canada and Mexico sell is bought by the United States, as opposed to the other way around, where Canada and Mexico buy, less than 10% of US produce? When that's the case, you haven't got a leg to stand on. You haven't got a negotiating position. The United States is strong and everybody else is weak. So you don't get to set the terms. When a country is comparatively wealthy and productive, that's the big key point, productive. Because in America, you can still get your employees to do a day's work. You know, they can't take 6 months sick on full pay because they got PTSD, because someone misgendered them. It's not like that in the United States. So they will win a trade war and they will win a tariff battle. That's just the way of it. So this is all bollocks. This is wishful thinking by the morons at the BBC who are desperate to defend their worldview. The new liberal world order that's about as much use as a nun's tits, right? That's all that story is. The big takeaway from the live feed is that Starmer, the worm, the maggot, the sloshing portaloo of a man, Sir Keir Starmer. Ha! Gay! There we go. Almost forgot that. He downplayed it when they asked him about tariffs because what he's trying to do, the worm that he is, he's doing the same old thing. He's constantly trying to be on both sides of every argument, and normal working class people with normal lives and normal families No, you can't be on both sides of every argument. You just can't. Sometimes you have to pick a course of action and stick to it. These lunatics, the people who run Europe and the British government, which is why, you know this is true, they think on a Monday they can say they're 100% committed to the Palestinians, and on the Tuesday they're 100% committed to the Israelis and the 4B2s. And then on a Wednesday, they're back to desperately trying to nosh off the regulars at the snack bar. And then on a Thursday, they're flying the Israeli flag. And then they're daft enough to think on Friday, both of those groups are going to go, love the Labour Party, me. It doesn't work like that, you dopey twat. This thing where these maggot politicians think they can just be on both sides of every argument, no matter how polarising, is preposterous. And that's what Starmer's been doing. He thinks the Americans are as thick as he is. He thinks he can fly over there, whisper sweet nothings into their ear, tell them whatever they want to hear, and then come back to Europe or go and talk to the Chinese and do the exact opposite of everything he said every time. So clearly, Trumpy Bear has had enough of it, and he knows Starmer's not to be trusted, and he knows under that administration the British aren't allies, and we can't be trusted. So if he wants to tariff the plums off the UK, do it. Do it as far as I'm concerned. Force a regime change, turn us into an economic basket case. Do it. And I know, sounds like it sucks for you lot living in the UK, but you know what it's like when you're working class scum like we are. You don't like being flush anyway, do you? When I'm flush, I'm fat and drunk all the time. I live off Stella and Monster Munch, yeah. When I'm skint, council pop and corn burgers. It's good for your cholesterol, being skint. So embrace it. Embrace the suck, ladies and gentlemen. If it helps usher Keir Starmer out of office, embrace it. It can't be bad for us. The Europeans are playing a dangerous political game. If it wasn't Trump putting these measures forward, it was Biden. They'd be all over it. They'd be loving it. They'd be playing ball. That's how much Trump derangement syndrome has ruined the Western world. These people will vote against their own interests. Chagos is another great example. They'll constantly vote against their own interests, just as part of some political game. If it'll annoy Trump, they'll do it. And they don't care if it's signing the death knell for their own civilization. You all know it's true. TDS isn't something to be taken lightly. These people, Keir Starmer would cut his own nutsack off if he thought it'd annoy Donald Trump, although probably the type of thing he'd get off on, because he is sexual deviant scum. And the final piece is Russia gloating over the Greenland tensions. As well they might, because they know the European Union and the British government are willing to commit the most atrocious acts of self-harm as long as they think it'll annoy the orange one. It's that simple. For those of you that don't know, I know I'm blowing the trumpet of the whole idea there, so let me just quickly explain. Lockheed Martin's website they'll only give you all of the positives. And they talk about how it's envisioned as a layered defence shield to safeguard the homeland. But what they don't mention here is it's loosely based off the Iron Dome shield that the Israelis use. And that does work. 85% plus effectiveness against incoming missiles. And in 2026, we do have the technology to build something that will provide a level of security against hypersonic and other indirect fire attacks from the enemy. And the Americans have said they're more than happy for the Allies to use it as well. So the Golden Dome is a good idea. It's going to cost $25 billion. And as usual, the Americans are going to foot the majority of the bill for it. It's also worth mentioning that the US-built Patriot missile systems have been used in Ukraine. They've been the backbone of the defence in Kiev, apparently. There's also a great article here in Defence Opinion all about why it's a good idea. 25 billion's a drop in the ocean. The British government we give that away every couple of years because our nation's run by imbeciles. It's a good idea. So anyway, to sum up to all the naysayers, I trust the Orange Oracle a lot more than I trust this devious, sneaky, slippery German Euro-communist, all right? They're only digging their heels in because they don't like the man proposing the idea. A coordinated, hyper-modern missile defence shield to be used by the Americans and their allies is a good idea, and it's worth paying for. And if Trumpy Bear wants to take Greenland in order to get it done, they should shut up whinging and say thanks very much, Mr. Orange President, sir. Technology's changed. SpaceX is giving the Americans a ridiculously good a razor-sharp cutting edge to dominate the space race and provide the satellite coverage. Not just to make sure that the Golden Dome is a success, but that World War III gets won by the Western powers. As I said to you, if you don't want to sit and read all the articles in the links and learn exactly about the Golden Dome and why it's feasible and why it's a good idea, simply do it the most basic way possible, which is ask yourself who you think is more interested in preserving Western Europe as a culture and a people and a series of nation states. Would it be President Trump and JD Vance, or would it be the insane screaming socialists backed by the likes of Klaus Schwab and George Soros? If you pick the latter, you probably prefer Ed Davey to Winston Churchill. But that's just my 2 cents. Links will be down there. Give them a read. Let me know what you think, as always. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Toodle pip. Cheers.